Now, we also talk about evaluating your prospect. Now, when we talk about your prospect, we're talking about how, when I'm buying this stock, how do I know that this amount of return is going to be justifiable for me? And let's say, for example, let's say you're looking at a potentially strong market, and you have 5 or 10 stocks to pick from. They all look good. But now, of those 10 particular companies, you now start to go to each one and say, which is more viable for me to take? Well, the answer to the question should be this: whichever one of those 10 shows me the lowest risk and shows the highest reward, that is the stock I should pick. Because believe me, it will happen once in a while. You're gonna get yourself into an environment where you'll have a lot of stock picks to be able to choose from. And it's like walking into a candy store. A little kid who goes into a candy store and he just looks around and sees, my God, you've got small lollipops, big ones, gums, you've got sugary stuff, chocolate, you've got everything to pick from. And you probably walk into a candy store and you just don't know which one to pick. And so, I always joke and I tell this story that here comes a little kid, he starts pulling all different types of candies, chocolates, and whatnot. And he puts it all in his 2 arms like this, holding it to try to be able to bring it to the store counter. But on his way out into the checkout counter, he sees this massive chocolate that he says, wow, I want that. But remember, he's holding a whole lot of things already. And so, in an effort to get that beautiful looking chocolate, he moves one of his hands to be able to pull that chocolate off the counter. And in doing so, he opens up an opening beneath him, and all the candies that he was holding falls down to the ground. Now, the learning lesson in all of that is you can't have it all. And if you try to do that, all the other opportunities will fall below your hands. And so it's important that you just come inside and say, all right, these are my filtering schemes. This is the one that I want the most. As a trader, you should have maybe 3 to 5 stocks the most at one time. Ask myself, if I see that in my portfolio magically appears I've got 6 stocks or 7 stocks, I know already I'm just buying too many issues and I am not focused because I'm not picking anything inside there. And it shouldn't be that way. Pick 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks max. Those should be able to get you to where you want. If you're buying too many, that just spreads your attention too far up and you can't concentrate with what you're doing. All right? So evaluate your prospect. When I'm looking for a potential stock, ask yourself, what's my upside versus my downside here? And try to assess what is the potential reward versus the potential risk of taking this trade. Let me show you how to do that. So let's have a look at this chart of DMC. I also have what is known as a wedge pattern over here. Now, the size of the wedge pattern is 1 peso and 50 cents. So the size of the pattern is this much. The breakout price is at 6 pesos and 80 cents. That's this area over here. So ideally, I should be looking to buy this. My potential upside should be my breakout price plus the size should be this particular target. So let's say it's 8 pesos and 30 cents. So now I want to make an assessment. Is this giving me the risk reward or reward to risk ratio that I want? When I buy a stock, I want at the least that my potential upside is 3 times bigger than my risk. Right? Oh, for those who call it risk reward ratio, it could mean for every 1 point of risk that you take, it should come with at least 3 points of reward or better. Put that in peso terms, if I'm buying this stock and it falls below my support, I will lose 1 peso. And if I buy this stock and it goes to my target, I will make at least 3 pesos. And that's the kind of risk reward that I want in this particular trade. So how viable is this trade? So I know my breakout price. Now I want to know what is my support. Well, I have 2 ways of gauging my support. The first, or support number 1 here, is my breakout price is my support. So 680 is exactly that price. So if, for example, you buy a stock and who knows, maybe you waited a little bit off 680 to confirm your breakout. Let's say you break it at 682 or 690. Let's say 690. Let's say you were not that quick. And if you buy this at 690 and your 680 is your downside, then you only have a 10 centavo risk. Whereas what's my potential for an upside? 690 all the way up to 8 pesos and 30 cents. That's huge compared to your risk. And that's probably a trade you want to take. Now, sometimes I want to be able to give certain patterns some leeway. And so what I do sometimes is that if I see an area pattern and prices do come back into the area pattern, normally a lot of traders will square their positions off if that happens. But depending on the pattern, especially if I see a bullish pattern like this, what I do is I will now measure towards the final end of the pattern. What is the size on the final end of the pattern? I will get a 50% value on that, so the halfway point, and that 50% is what I will use as my second support area. And I will use that, let's say, to be able to measure my potential risk, whereas as what my potential reward will be. Let's try to make that assessment here. Don't worry too much about the numbers. I'll walk you through it. Okay, so earlier we said my target price was 8 pesos and 30 cents. Okay, my buy price was at 690 because I was not able to get the 680. So that tells me from 690 to 830 is a difference of 1 peso and 40 cents. 140 is my reward. Now, let's try to measure my risk. If I had bought it at 690, which is right above the breakout price, and it happens to be able to fall to my support number 2 here, which is at 660, then my risk would be 30 centavos. So let's check. 140 reward versus 30 cents in risk. So how many times bigger is my reward compared to my risk? It's 4.6 times greater than my risk. So my risk reward ratio in this case would be 1:4.6. That's clearly bigger than this. And so this is clearly a viable trade for me to be able to take. All right. Let's say, for example, you're looking for a potential breakout. Your breakout is at 10 pesos per share. Your target is 11. So that means my reward is about 1 peso. Now, my support, let's say, happens to be next after the breakout price is all the way back up to 9 pesos because the breakout started from the base of a pattern. And that means that my risk is 1 peso. My target is also 1 peso in reward. So my risk reward is 1 point of risk versus 1 point of reward, 1:1. Now, I don't like those odds, and I will not trade that stock. I will look for issues that will give me at least a 3:1 or better. And the reason for that is, if I were to make 10 transactions, assuming 50% of the time I make money and 50% of the time I lose. If the risk-reward ratio I get is 1:1, that means on the 50% that I win, I will make 1 peso. On the 50% that I lose, I will also lose 1 peso. In the end, I square off and I don't make any money at all. But if I find a risk-reward ratio that is 1 point of risk, but 3 points of a reward, and let's say again, I find this trade that I'm only successful half of the time. On the time that I lose, I will lose 1 peso. But on the time that I do make money, 50% of the time that I do make money, I make 3 pesos. And so that means in the end, even if I only am half successful in my trades, but I give a bigger risk reward ratio and I'm making more money when I do make money, I will still walk out from the winner only if I still only call this half right. And I hope that if you know your technicals, you're not just going to be calling your stocks right half of the time. You should be calling your stocks right 80% of the time. So if you can have an 80% win ratio plus a risk reward of 1:3, you can just imagine how profitable you can be if you can align yourself with that particular rule of thumb.